This is the Brew World Order Podcast.
Welcome to the Brew World Order Podcast. My name is Mike Curtin. If you haven't subscribed yet, stop what you're doing and press that subscribe button. This is episode number 57, and in this episode I sit down with Manny Coelho of Lithology Brewing Company in Farmingdale, New York. Manny tells us about how a little mistake in brewing actually turned out to be a happy accident, how pumping the brakes every once in a while is not such a bad idea, and he talks about how him and his co-founders came up with the name for Lithology Brewing Company. It's actually quite scientific, but I don't understand it at all. Maybe you might. You know, some people actually consider me a bit of a scientist. Once upon a time ago, when I had hair on my head, I actually mixed shampoo and, wait for it, conditioner together. And it made my hair not only silky, smooth, but cleaned it. I turn around a couple days later, and I see it in the store. I'm not saying I came up with it, but I'm not saying I didn't come up with it either. What I am saying is, I'm quite a genius and I'm owed a lot of money from these shampoo people. But enough about my hair and how I wish I still had it. Let's talk about the episode at hand that you're about to listen to, because it's way more interesting than my shampoo expertise. So sit back, crack open a beer, and enjoy this podcast. Manny Coelho grew up in Mineola. He attended college for film, but after he finished college, his grandfather asked Manny if he'd like to take on some side work as an electrician's assistant for a short while. That short while turned into 18 years, and during that time, Manny wound up becoming a co-owner of an electrical company. In 2011, Manny brought his good friend Lee Kaplan, a geologist by profession, a home brewing kit as a present after the two had taken an interest in craft beer. They started brewing together. Once a month at first, but before they knew it, their hobby had quickly become an obsession, and they began brewing close to twice a week. They invited Kevin Kane, also a geologist, to help him out. Soon enough, the brew days that started as a hobby began to get more scientific and precise. The group started to see how serious things were getting and realized that this was much bigger than just making beers for their inner circle. They devised a business plan and ventured out, finding capital to form Lithology Brewing Company in 2015. They officially opened their doors to the public in Farmingdale in 2016. And Manny Coelho's here with me today. Manny, how's it going?
What's going on, man? Thanks for inviting me.
Hey, no problem. So how did you guys go about coming up with the name for your brewery?
So lithology is a geology term, and two of my partners are geologists. So when we started the company, I got called by Lee, my best friend, and he explained to me what lithology meant. So it's kind of like three different things going on with that name. So lithology is the study of the general characteristics of rocks and the layers of it. If you think about New York water, it gets, especially from Long Island, we get our water from the aquifers, the lowest layer called Magathy. Long Island itself is two glaciers that crashed into each other, formed Long Island, making the layers of Long Island where the water filters through, giving us great New York water, which gives us great New York pizza, bagels, and of course beer, because that's one of the main ingredients. So There's that, and then the LI for being a Long Island brewery. So in some of our logos, the LI falls on the New York State. So LI for Long Island, and just paying homage to one of the biggest ingredients that beer is made from.
Gotcha. Well, now that my brain hurts from trying to comprehend all that, what was that aha moment for you when you and your partners decided this is the time to open a brewery?
I mean, I guess there's a couple of times when we would brew, and let's say we're home brewing, and then the next day I get called from my friend, and he's like, "Well, we messed that up. We weren't paying attention. The numbers aren't right. Let's brew it again." So it's no longer a hobby at that point. It became like an obsession job.
Right.
So we were just dialing in all the time, and those two guys are scientists, so everything was written down, all numbers, and everything had to be on point. And Kevin and Lee had enough drinks to say, "Hey, why don't we're pretty good at this. Why don't we enter some competitions and then also, start a brewery and see where we can go with this."
Very cool. And during that process, from opening your brewery from the start to the point where you actually opened the doors to the public, what would you say was the most challenging part for you?
Wow. So when we first started, it was just trying to find a location. To get a license, you need a brick and mortar. So we were going around seeing what the investments were going to be and all that stuff. And we actually ran into somebody who had a co-op where you'd go in the back and just brew, and it's a shared space where you would brew in a kitchen and make beer to be able to sell wholesale. So that actually helped us out on getting a New York farm brewing license, where we were able to do that. Meanwhile, still looking to see like where we could open up. So while we were brewing and selling selling wholesale like kegs to bars, so we didn't have a tasting room. We were looking at all these different places. We checked out Baldwin. Then it was like, oh well, it's going to cost you $50,000 for the sewers to be updated and all that stuff. And then meanwhile, so it was 8 months later, the guy who owned the place, it was called a Taste of Long Island, he wanted to retire. So if he had retired, all the people that were co-op brewing there would have lost their license, because you need a host to have your license.
Right. Okay.
So it took us like 3 hours to make the decision and said, hey, let's figure out how to do this, buy his equipment, talk to the landlord, see if we could sign a lease and take over the space. And we become the host brewer, and we have some tenants under us. And then eventually, as we grow, they'll leave, and hopefully they'll start their own places, and we will get more fermenters that we need as we keep growing. So it was kind of like a weird serendipitous thing that happened because like we were really gunning for that spot in Baldwin, but then like it takes a lot of investment when things aren't set up right away. But like the Taste of Long Island spot, all the sewer and everything was already set up. All the licenses were made, right. The permits were done. So we said, all right, let's do it. So we took it over and redid what we had to do. I think one of the other challenges is that we didn't realize that he wasn't set up as a tasting room. He was just set up as a to-go. So you could fill crowlers, but nobody could enjoy a pint.
Gotcha.
So we then had to go to the village and sit down, have a whole town hall meeting explaining what we were planning on doing, change up the whole place, add a bathroom. So a lot of construction went into it, even though we had thought like, oh, everything's fine, we're just taking it right over. No, it wasn't the case. So we had to actually apply for a permit to be able to have people come and enjoy pints and flights instead of just like a little sip and then crowlers only. Like that's not what we had thought that we were able to do. So we had to then pick up that license. So as much as we were like, oh, okay, we have a space that has all the other permits taken care of, it's like, now there's something else we got to take care of. So we quickly, with my construction background, we started making a bathroom, redoing the tasting room, making it more of a tasting room look, and splitting the brewery up / tasting room area up. So that's kind of how we had to go about it to be able to open up to the public, to have them be able to sit down and enjoy pints and flights.
And how did you guys go about finding the capital to fund that?
So when we first became a brewer, we actually did a Kickstarter. We came up with the capital that way. Some of it was that way to raise money to get kegs and a keg washer and a van, and just to get us kind of started. And then our personal, partners, the 4 partners had to put in some money to keep it going. So everything was all based on us coming up with the capital. We didn't really want to involve investors just yet. We were trying to do, keep doing it ourselves until we really had to go big on asking for investors. But the Kickstarter definitely helped us, for lack of a better word, get started.
Right. You have you and 3 other owners. How do you feel that it works better for you having 4 owners rather, than just being the sole owner?
Well, I think it's that every owner has a role, and they can help out in different locations. Like I've owned my own company. I was an electrical contractor for 18 years. Owning a company itself is just putting out fires, right?
Right.
You're just constantly, something's coming up. It's just like, you got to do this, or this happened, or that happened. So having 4 heads to help out definitely is huge. There's sometimes that could be frustrating, as in like trying to everyone be on the same page. But we all pretty much, when we sat down to become this partnership, we all knew what we wanted to do with the company, where we want to go with it and how fast or slow we want to go with growing it. Everyone knows kind of like their ownership roles, what they have to do, what they take care of, and what we all can help with, like each other. Like, oh, well, I do certain things here, and then I know who I have to or can ask to help out. And then like if someone's doing other roles like taking care of payroll and QuickBooks and all other stuff and they need help, I can jump in, or the other partners can jump in as well. So it does help out a lot.
Gotcha. As far as assigning everybody like kind of responsibilities, what's something you never thought you were going to have to deal with when owning a brewery?
Wow. You working the bar shift? So it's fun at first, and then it becomes like you're doing everything. As owners, at first we were like, oh, okay, we got to brew. All right, so who's doing this weekend's bar? You know, who's doing next weekend's? And then we end up having to hire somebody, but then if they can't come in, you're still backing that up. You're still a bartender. You're still a bathroom cleaner. You're still a sweeper. You know, you're doing not just brewing. You know,
right.
I always tell people when people say to me like, you know, oh, what advice do you give if someone wants to start a brewery? And this is a little bit of a joke, but it's also kind of like, if it's still your passion, don't open up a brewery.
Right.
It's for you to want to be a brewery owner. Your passion should also be putting out fires. Like you should want to be okay with and happy with that every day is some new challenge that you wouldn't even think about. Like, oh, the storage room ceiling fell because, you know, the tenants upstairs left the bathroom flooding. You know, the doors are locked because, you know, it's freezing outside. Oh, you gotta get there to let the assistant brewer in. Even though you're an hour away, you got to drop everything to go get them in, or else no beer is being made. So like, not to say that you shouldn't try all this, but like if you just like brewing beer, get a job at a brewery as a brewer. If you like doing everything else also, sure, own a company. It does help that I did own a company before this. Everyone's always asked like, what's better? Well, I like coming home smelling like beer, not smelling like insulation and copper. But a lot of it is kind of the same. Like there is just a lot of other things that come up. Like I would say 10 to 15% of it is brewing. The rest of it is dealing with a lot of things.
Right.
Customer reviews, Yelp, Google, time. Make sure the schedules are up. Make sure that, oh, you were closed today? How come you didn't say that on Google? Oh, call Google. Google, why aren't you updating? Like there's things that you don't even... Like, you're like, what? I got to call Yelp, and then they're asking me about ads and all that stuff. Like, all I wanted to do is brew beer.
Right.
But no, there's a lot to it, you know? Oh, how come people just don't know about us? Well, because you're not spending enough on Instagram ads. Like, what? You know, like, there's a lot more than just the passion that you had for making, you know, your chocolate brown ale that you made, you know, with your best friend while drinking some whiskey in a garage.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. So I'm sure there was a moment for you that kind of stuck out as a defining moment. Was there a moment for you that kind of sticks out in your mind that you realize, like,
yeah,
we're doing well, we're kind of successful now, like, you know, that first moment?
Yeah, I was out at a bar and somebody was wearing my T-shirt that I didn't know. It's a weird thing to think about, but like.
Right.
To be out somewhere that was nowhere near my house, nowhere near the brewery,
right, and
then seeing somebody wearing Lithology, and then at a craft beer bar, and then asking for it, but you know it's not on. So it was kind of great to see, like, oh, they're requesting it, so now the bartenders are like, oh, we should reach out to Lithology. Thought that was great. And another one is like winning Long Island Brewery of the Year for the New York State Craft Brewery Award.
Gotcha. Talking before about all the things that come up and things you have to deal with, like, you know, updating Google and little things like that. How important is a mental break for you, and what does that look like?
A mental break is hugely important. Me and my wife travel a lot. I mean, the only reason why I work is so that I could go my next trip, because I guess that is my mental break. Mental breaks are hugely important. You could get wrapped into the, oh my God, this went wrong. Oh my God, this deadline of this beer needs to be out. And especially with the last year that we had, I didn't realize how much it was important because I didn't go away. And I was just taking, every day was a new pivot. Every day was a new guideline. Every day we had to lay somebody off and like I had to be here by myself because the only way to pay my salary is the brewery had to stay open. So it was a lot. I guess but I'm going on a tangent, which I do. I guess it's shut off the damn phone.
Right.
And also realize I'm not curing cancer.
Okay.
I'm making beer.
Right.
So in the end, like I take my job real seriously. I want to get deadlines in, but like in the end, like after the year and a half that we've had, I realized like it can wait if it means that much stress. It's tough. And there's times that I say this now when I'm talking to you, but you ignore it when you're in the heat of it.
Oh, of course.
Like, I got to get this done. Oh, what happened? Oh, the other day, a hose exploded while I was kegging a beer, and I was upstairs for a second, and 40 gallons of beer are on the floor. 40 gallons of like beer that was contracted to be bought in wholesale, ready to go. I was guaranteed to get a check from that. And then I was so angry at myself, all because I was multitasking and going around all this stuff. And then I was like, all right, let's take a breath. All right, well, there's always more beer.
Right.
Just move on. Like the most important thing is that, it sounds really cheesy to say, but like my family and friends are the most important thing to me. So like that comes first. And it is very easy as a business owner or anybody who takes their job very seriously to take on everything and forget that and not take a second. So I did find that shutting off the phone and putting on like the do not disturb and just being like, I don't need to see social media. I don't need to see like the Google reviews, the Untapped reviews. None of that means anything. I just need I need a break. And like when you are away, what's the worst case that could happen? Oh, the tasting room, CO2 machine's not working. All right, close the lights, shut the door.
Yeah, right.
Till next time.
Till next time.
You know what I'm saying? Is anyone hurt? No. Is there a fire? No. All right, shut the door. It's time. I'll go there on Monday, and we'll deal with it on Monday.
Yeah.
It sounds. Some people would say, "Oh, you got to get all the money you can," but like, what? Is it worth it?
Sometimes it's not worth the stress. You're right. Absolutely. And you talk about the last year and a half. How did you guys go about dealing with everything with the whole shutdown and COVID protocols and all that? How did you go about pivoting and making things work for you?
Well, so when it first happened, we were all like, all right, let's shut it down. Let's see what like our Brewers Association, the New York Brewers Association is phenomenal. They were updating us every day. So we were able to stay up on the guidelines, what we needed to do, what we can and couldn't do. And then once we got that delivery, the approval to deliver to people's houses, that was another, I guess it was weird. That's another point of like, wow, we are successful because our clientele, our supporters, the locals stepped it up hugely. They were like, all right, Lithology's got to stay open. I was, like I said before, had to lay off my staff, very small staff, but in order for me to get a check as an owner, I'm the brewer. I'm the guy here. So like for me to work, we have to make money so that I could pay myself. So I was like, and my partners are like, you cool with this? Yeah, because they all have other careers that are happening and they have full-time gigs that they were trying to, manage. So I was like, yeah, I'm good. Let's do this. And as soon as delivery was given to us, the people just kept ordering and I figured out, let's keep filling. Let's not brew. Let's keep all the kegs that we have for now and go through it and can and deliver. And slowly but surely we made it through. We got our original staff back and, then with the guidelines, we had meetings, told the staff what they needed to do and told them that they needed to be flexible, and they were great for us, because it was like every day was a new thing, Yeah, every day you were dealing with like, oh no, people have to come in this way. Oh, they can come in this way. They can't stay. It's only to goes. Oh no, they can stay, but it's like limited. So every day there was a group text message going through like, hey, this is what we have to update. This is what we have to do. And, I had to keep the lights on. If I didn't, then, people are like, oh, well, you could stay home and try to apply for unemployment. You know how hard it is for an owner to try to get
of course. Yeah, right.
I've tried, I'd had ups and downs when I owned my electrical company. That's the part of being a small business. You're like, well, somebody told me one time, you're 3 months away from bankruptcy. That's a tough thing to hear.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the time.
I'm sure. As an owner.
3 months away from bankruptcy at all times. So I was like, I can't do that. I have to stay open. Let's do this. So, but it was crazy. My wife even told me, she was like, I'm not sure if you were yourself. You were kind of just numb. Yes. I had a couple breakdowns, to be honest. Like there was times.
I believe it.
I'm a very extrovert person. So I like talking to people at the brewery. I like talking about the beers, what we do, what the passion goes into it. How do we figure out that beer name and all that stuff? During the pandemic, you were just coming to pick up. There was no conversation happening. So like, it was weird. Like, even though I saw people, it wasn't it wasn't giving me the high that I get from being an extrovert. So I was actually going like reverse and like didn't know that it was bothering me. So it was tough.
So you guys have been open 5 years in July, right? You hit your 5-year anniversary in July?
Yeah, we did our 5 years of, so we've been a company for 6. We've been at the tasting room for 5 years. That's when we took over the space and it became our tasting room. So we were like, that's what we're going to celebrate.
Okay.
Because before that we were like, yeah, we were still a company. We were selling wholesale and our kegs were out there. But it became super real when we had to get this tasting room going.
Right. I actually remember when you guys first came out and were like distributing. My friend owns a restaurant. I think it was Rockville Center, maybe Bayside. I forgot which one it was sent to, but it was like a 22, and it was actually like handwritten in marker. The name of the beer.
That's so funny, man.
So long ago, right?
Like, you had to do it,
Right. So long ago. So what do you think has been the biggest change in the last 5 years for you in the industry?
Cans.
Yeah. It's a big one.
I mean, especially with the pandemic.
Right.
Cans. Everybody wants cans. That's a huge change. Crowlers coming in. That's Seamer coming in, getting rid of the glass growlers and everybody just doing crowlers because it's a little bit more manageable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that. So we're trying to get a package line going. Some of our stuff is we do contract our more flagship beers, so that we can have more cases available, because with our system we can only do about 30 cases, and we are working on trying to get a portable canning machine here, but we have to change up one of our cold rooms to get even colder for them to be able to come here, or else we get too much liquid loss from foam and it would not be worth it. So I can by hand and it's exhausting, but it is what I got to do, for now. This has nothing to do with homebrewing. This all has to do with just figuring it out and
just basically owning a brewery.
Yeah. You got designers to pay for. You got designers to deal with. It's stuff you don't. I'm like, right now I'm in my office. I'm looking at all the different things that have nothing to do with brewing beer.
Speaking of beer, what was that first beer for you that you had that kind of opened your eyes to the craft beer world?
Founders IPA. It was my go-to for a very long time.
Right. Yeah.
My favorite beer to drink is a Guinness to start off the night. Just, I know it's a mainstream beer.
Right.
But that's how I start off my night sometimes. If it's going to be a long night of drinking.
Right.
But my go-to, I guess some would say that's not even craft beer anymore, but I like it. And I don't care what anybody has to say.
I mean,
it's a good IPA.
I love Founders all around, man. The stuff they put out is just phenomenal.
Good stuff. No, I really like the Founders IPA. It's haven't had one in a while because believe it or not, when you're around this all the time, you kind of get sick of it for a moment.
Of course, there's so many different beers to try too, and it's just
oh my god,
it's constant.
So
I'm sure.
I take a break every once in a while. I go to my whiskey and sometimes even my wine.
Same.
I'm not shy of all things spirits and alcohol.
Gotcha. So, what would you say is next for your brewery? What does the future look like for Lithology?
That's funny. A lot of people ask that question. So the next is definitely stepping up our canning game. We got a bunch of labels made so that we can can more of our specialty, like IPAs, obviously, because everybody loves IPAs.
Yes.
So we got to do it. You got to pay bills, right? You know, we started off. We're an ales company. Like we specialize in like our red ale, our brown ale, our pale ales. But we also want to specialize in paying our electrical bills.
Of course. Yeah.
So you decide you got to do some IPAs. So we do have some really good IPAs. Some our New England IPAs have gotten a lot better, and we've done a lot more research on like getting them to be more crisp and clean, and we're hazy if you would like, not clean, but
right.
We want to step up our can game, and ultimate goal is like to grow out of this space, keep this space as an extra tasting room, and find a bigger operation space so that we can do all of our canning inside our place. And with our New York Farm Brewing license, we're allowed 5 satellite tasting rooms. So, the ultimate goal would eventually to grow to 5 satellite tasting rooms, including the original tasting room.
Right.
We don't want to overdo it and then like spend too much, get too much in debt, and then, close down because we're like, oh, it's so great, let's do it. Strike while the iron's hot. I'd rather slow grow it. I'd rather do it the right way, make sure this tasting room is run the correct way. And then get into another spot and just have a tasting room there where it's showcasing our New York made beers. And so then this way we could also sell the New York spirits and wines that we get to sell as well.
Right. Slow and steady. Nice and easy.
That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, man.
Trying to do. I know sometimes, your eyes get huge, and we did that. We did that in the beginning. We're like, let's do this, let's do that, get this, get that. And then you realize quickly, when you're not the new kid on the block anymore,
right?
Things slow down, and you just spent a lot of money, and now you got to pay all that off. We quickly had to pull the reins. And that's what we had to do.
So I know you had briefly mentioned before some advice, but if someone came to you asking you for advice on opening their own place, their own brewery, what would you tell them?
I would say ask yourself, like I said it before, ask yourself if you like to put out fires.
Right.
What I mean by that is dealing with a lot of problems every day that have nothing to do with brewing and brewing stuff. If you like that, either decide if you want to be a partnership or sole owner. Just make a game plan. Have everything business-wise worked out before you start brewing as a company. Everyone should know their place. Everyone should know what would happen if they decide to leave, if someone gets hurt, if someone dies. Unfortunately, it's conversations you have to have before you even start brewing beer as a company. And it's just something people don't, oh, it's great, I'm going to brew with my friends, it's so great.
Right.
Yeah, it's great. Or, it's amazing. And it's great when people are like, I want to come and help, I'll sweep for free. Yeah, and then what happens if you get burnt by 180-degree acid water?
Right.
It's no longer free. I'm paying for, your medical care, and you're now suing me.
Right.
So, like, stuff gets real quick. So you have to have all those hard conversations before. One of my friends said, like, good contracts make really good friends.
Right.
Basically. So you got to get it out, and then you can move on from there and just have like a business plan. Like, what do you want your brewery to stand for? What kind of beers you want to do, and go on from there. But definitely have the hard conversations before.
Okay. So did you happen to have a funny story for us?
What, none of that was funny?
No. It was absolutely hilarious.
Funny story, I guess. I don't know if this is a really funny story, but like everybody asks us, like, how do we come up with names and stuff? And some of the stuff is like, the names of the beers is like, hey, we have a group chat, and we're like, all right, this beer's coming out. What do we call it? And everybody gives in their top 3, and then it becomes like we start making fun of each other's dads and moms, and then somebody just finally picks up a name. But everyone wants to know, like, our first beer ever made. So when we were brewing in the back, we were told an efficiency rating of the brew system. So when we decided to be a brewery, we came up with the LBIPA. So we were like, all right, we're going to brew the LBIPA as our first beer. So based on what we were told the brew system could give out, that's how we brewed it. When it was made and it came out, it didn't taste like an IPA. It tasted like a pale ale.
Right.
Because the guy had no idea what his real efficiency was. So we're like, well, we gotta sell it. What are we gonna do? We're like, well, we're not calling it an IPA. It's not bitter at all. So let's just call it. And like, we were filling keg 21, and it was our first beer sold legally. So we're like, well, 21, legal age of drinking, first beer. Let's just call it legal. Legal APA. We sent it out. We're like, we're probably never gonna even sell this again. It just so happened to be one of the better beers, the best beers or most common beer that everybody likes on Main Street. So now we had to make the beer that was not
supposed to be made.
That was not supposed to be a pale ale, and make it taste the same that people were enjoying. But yet, now that we know the new efficiency, we had to recreate that recipe with not as much hops because it no longer needed that many hops. So we then had to make the mistake on purpose.
Gotcha.
The right way. That was fun because it brought back, like, the home, the experimental times.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome.
So, like, that's how the legal APA became. It was it was a mistake. And now we have the legal APA and the LBIPA. LBIPA and both the legal APA and LBIPA are one of our flagship beers.
That's actually awesome. Very cool. So I have a little segment called Quick Fire 5. 5 quick questions, beer related. Ready?
Yeah.
All right. Somebody walks into your tap room. One of the beers you recommend they try?
LB's Knees, if it's right now. If it's all the time, Designated Hitter.
All right. Favorite brewery other than your own?
I would have to say Founders.
Favorite style of beer?
Right now, I'm really digging West Coast IPAs.
West Coast IPA. Barrel aged, imperial, or both?
Neither. Neither. I don't like it. I'll brew it. I have a barrel aged brown ale, but I have one and I'm done.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. And you have one keg of beer to hold you over for a 2-week quarantine. What beer are you choosing?
Keg of beer to hold me over. I would have to probably go with our Local Gold.
Local Gold.
Local Gold by Lithology. It's West Coast IPA. We use Eldorado hops. One of my favorite IPAs that we make.
Awesome. Well, I hope to try that very soon. I'll be making a trip.
It's on tap. We tapped it last week.
Awesome, man. Manny, that's all I got for you.
Amazing.
I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast with Manny Coelho of Lithology Brewing Company in Farmingdale, New York. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thank you so much for listening to my interview with Manny Coelho of Lithology Brewing Company in Farmingdale, New York. Whether you're passing through, you live in the area, or just visiting a friend nearby, definitely check him out. Give him a follow on social media while you're at it. Every other Sunday I'll be releasing a new episode, so subscribe and you'll never miss one. Also, give us a follow on social media too for updates and clips from the podcast. I'm Mike Curtin for the Brew World Order podcast. You stay safe out there.